In the heart of a quiet industrial town nestled in northern England, Emma Thompson's world was a delicate balance of survival and sacrifice. At 32, her life had become a monotonous routine of hard work and silent struggle. The gray cobblestone streets of her hometown seemed to mirror her own faded dreams, each step a testament to her unwavering determination. Every morning, before the first rays of sunlight could break through the thick morning mist, Emma would rise. Her small, cramped bedroom told a story of limited resources and endless responsibility. Photographs of happier times lined the worn wooden dresser. Images of her younger self, bright-eyed and full of hope, now seemed like memories from another lifetime. Margaret, her mother, lay in the adjacent room. Once a vibrant woman who worked as a local school teacher, she was now a shadow of her former self, battling a series of chronic health conditions that had slowly drained the family's resources. Emma's entire world revolved around caring for her, making sure every need was met with the limited funds they had. The textile factory where Emma worked was a massive old building that had seen better days. Its brick walls were stained with decades of industrial history, and the loud machines inside seemed to echo the relentless rhythm of her life. She worked 12-hour shifts, her hands calloused from handling rough fabrics, her back aching from constant movement. Her colleagues knew her as the quiet woman who never complained. While others discussed weekend plans and personal adventures, Emma would simply smile politely and return to her work. Her lunch breaks were spent checking on her mother, making quick phone calls to doctors or carefully calculating their monthly expenses. Financial struggles were a constant companion. Medical bills had consumed their savings years ago. Emma had long abandoned her dreams of further education or finding love. Every penny was carefully budgeted, some for medicine, some for food, some for basic utilities. There was rarely anything left for herself. The small council house they lived in was modest, with peeling wallpaper and creaky floorboards. But Emma took pride in keeping it clean and comfortable for her mother. She would spend her limited free time mending clothes, preparing nutritious meals, and ensuring Margaret was as comfortable as possible. Despite the challenges, Emma maintained a quiet dignity. Her strength wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a subtle, persistent force that kept her moving forward. She found moments of joy in small things. A cup of tea shared with her mother, a kind word from a neighbor, the occasional smile from a coworker. Her wardrobe consisted of practical, worn clothing, mostly dark colors that could hide the occasional stain from factory work. She rarely bought anything new, understanding that every spare pound could be better spent on her mother's care or essential household needs. The town knew her as a reliable, hard-working woman. Local shopkeepers would give her small discounts, recognizing her constant struggle. The community, while not overtly demonstrative, respected her quiet resilience. At night, after tucking her mother in and completing all necessary chores, Emma would sit by the window. The streetlights would cast long shadows, and in those moments of silence, she would allow herself brief moments of reflection. Dreams of what could have been would flutter through her mind. Perhaps a different career. Maybe a family of her own. But these thoughts were quickly replaced by a sense of duty and love for her mother. Her world was small but meaningful. Every sacrifice was made with a purpose. Every hardship endured with grace. Emma didn't see herself as a victim. She was a caregiver, a protector, a beacon of hope in her own quiet way. Little did she know that her life was about to change. The monotony that had defined her existence for years was preparing to give way to unexpected opportunities, hidden just beyond the horizon of her current reality. As the night settled over the industrial town, Emma Thompson prepared for another day, unaware that her journey of resilience was about to take an extraordinary turn. Her story was just beginning. The end. The textile factory hummed with its usual mechanical rhythm when Robert Collins arrived for his first day of work. He was different from the typical workers, younger, with a kind face and eyes that seemed to take in more than just the physical surroundings. At 28, he carried himself with a gentle confidence that stood out among the rough-handed laborers. Emma noticed him immediately, though she didn't approach. Years of keeping to herself had taught her to be cautious. Robert, however, was observant. He quickly saw how Emma worked harder than anyone else, her movements precise and determined, her face rarely showing any emotion beyond focused concentration. During the first week, Robert began to notice small details about Emma. She often skipped lunch. Her packed bag never opened. Sometimes she would look exhausted, her hands trembling slightly as she worked the complicated machinery. While other workers complained about overtime and working conditions, Emma remained silent, her dedication unwavering. One particularly cold morning, Robert brought an extra sandwich. The canteen was noisy, workers chatting and laughing, but Emma sat alone in a corner. Without making a big show, he walked over and quietly placed the sandwich near her. "Thought you might be hungry," he said simply, before walking away. Emma was surprised. Nobody had shown her such unexpected kindness in years. At first, she was suspicious, but as days passed, Robert's simple acts of consideration continued. He would help her with heavy loads, offer a hand when a machine needed adjusting, and always seemed to appear when she was struggling the most. Their conversations started small, brief exchanges about work, the weather, simple pleasantries. But gradually Emma began to lower her defensive walls. Robert never pushed, never asked too many questions. His approach was soft, respectful of her obvious need for privacy. One afternoon, during a rare moment of rest, Emma found herself sharing a bit about her mother's health. Robert listened intently, his eyes showing genuine concern. He didn't offer empty sympathy, but instead asked practical questions about her mother's medical needs. "I know some people at the community health center," he mentioned casually. "They might have resources that could help you." Emma had heard such offers before, always empty promises that led nowhere, but something in Robert's tone was different, genuine and sincere. The factory became more than just a workplace for Emma. With Robert's unexpected friendship, she started to see glimpses of human connection she had long forgotten. He brought small things, sometimes a warm pastry, other times helpful information about local support services. Her mother noticed the change first. "You seem different," Margaret would say, watching her daughter's face soften slightly. "There's something lighter about you recently." Emma couldn't explain the transformation. Robert wasn't just a colleague or a potential friend. He was becoming a bridge between her isolated world and the broader community she had shut out for so long. As weeks passed, Robert helped Emma navigate local health resources, showing her applications for additional support she didn't know existed. He never made her feel pitiful, always treating her with respect and genuine care. The factory walls that had once felt like a prison began to feel different. There was warmth now, a sense of possibility that Emma had never experienced before. Robert's simple acts of kindness were slowly rebuilding her trust in human connection. She didn't know it yet, but these unexpected connections were about to change everything: her life, her hopes, her entire understanding of community and support. The quiet struggle was about to transform into something more powerful, more beautiful than Emma could have ever imagined. The end. The phone call came on a gray Wednesday morning. Emma's hands shook as she listened to the doctor's words. Her mother's condition had suddenly worsened. The medical tests revealed a complex treatment would be necessary, a procedure that would cost more money than Emma had seen in her entire life. Margaret lay in the hospital bed, her once vibrant skin now pale and fragile. The doctor spoke in clinical terms, but Emma heard only one thing. The treatment would cost nearly £10,000. Her factory wages were barely enough to cover their monthly expenses, let alone such an astronomical medical bill. That evening, Emma's world crumbled. The weight of years of struggle pressed down on her shoulders. She had sacrificed everything: her dreams, her personal life, her future, to care for her mother. And now, it seemed even that might not be enough. At the factory, Robert noticed something different. Emma's movements were mechanical, her eyes distant and filled with unshed tears. She dropped a bundle of fabric, something she had never done before. The loud clatter of material hitting the floor drew everyone's attention. During their lunch break, Emma couldn't hold back any longer. The stress of years burst forth in a moment of raw emotion. Sitting in the corner of the staff room, she broke down completely. Tears that she had held back for years came flooding out. Tears of exhaustion, fear, and overwhelming desperation. Robert found her there, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Unlike others who might have awkwardly looked away, he sat down beside her. No words were spoken. Sometimes silence is the most powerful form of support. "The treatment," Emma finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's too expensive. I can't save her." The doctor had been clear. Without this specific treatment, Margaret's condition would continue to deteriorate. Each day would become a battle, each moment a struggle. Emma had always been the strong one, the one who could fix everything. But this time money was an enemy she couldn't fight. Her mind raced through impossible calculations. She had already sold everything of value. Her small savings were long gone. The credit cards were maxed out. There were no more financial tricks left to try. Robert listened carefully. Then slowly he began to form a plan. "We're going to help you," he said firmly. It wasn't a question or a suggestion. It was a statement of fact. The next few days were a blur of activity. Robert reached out to local community leaders, workplace colleagues, and even the factory management. He understood that Emma's struggle was more than just a personal challenge. It was a community issue. Word spread quickly through the small industrial town. People who had known Emma for years, the local shopkeeper, the postman, her factory, colleagues, began to understand the depth of her situation. They had always seen her as the quiet, hard-working woman who never complained, and now they wanted to help. Emma was overwhelmed. She had spent years keeping to herself, believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness. But Robert showed her that community wasn't about individual strength, but collective support. The factory manager called Emma into his office. Instead of discussing work, he presented her with an envelope. Inside was a collection of donations from workers, some who had worked alongside her for years but had never truly spoken to her. Her world was shifting. The isolation she had built around herself was crumbling, replaced by something unexpected and powerful: human connection. As night fell, Emma sat beside her mother's hospital bed, holding her frail hand. For the first time in years, she felt a tiny spark of hope. The breaking point wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something miraculous. The end. The community fundraiser began as a small idea but quickly grew into something extraordinary. Robert's initial plan transformed into a town-wide movement of support for Emma and her mother. The local community center became the heart of the effort, with volunteers working tirelessly to organize events and collect donations. Local businesses started contributing in ways Emma could never have imagined. The bakery offered free meals for fundraising events. The hardware store donated raffle prizes. Even the small pub on the corner became a collection point for donations, with a large poster showing Margaret's story and Emma's dedication. People who had barely known Emma began to share her story. The postman who had delivered her bills for years, the corner shop owner who had seen her buying budget groceries, the school teachers who remembered her mother. Everyone wanted to help. A community. Dinner was organized in the town hall. Emma was terrified of being the center of attention, but Robert gently encouraged her. "These people want to support you," he explained. "They see your strength." The night of the dinner was magical. The hall was packed with familiar faces: factory, workers, local business owners, town officials, and neighbors. Emma stood nervously at the front, her hands trembling. Robert stood quietly beside her, offering silent support. The town mayor spoke about Margaret's years of service as a school teacher, reminding everyone of the contributions she had made to the community. Stories emerged of how Margaret had helped students, supported struggling families, and been a pillar of the community for decades. Donations began to pour in. What started as a hope for covering medical expenses became something much larger. People weren't just donating money, they were offering support, sharing stories, creating a network of care that Emma had never experienced before. The local newspaper picked up the story. A photographer captured a moment of Emma's raw emotion, tears mixing with gratitude, her guard finally dropping. The image became a symbol of community strength, of what people could achieve when they came together. Robert continued to be the quiet force behind everything. He managed paperwork, coordinated volunteers, and ensured every donation was properly tracked. His organizational skills turned a simple fundraiser into a powerful movement of support. Margaret, weak but aware, began to understand what was happening. From her hospital bed, she would squeeze Emma's hand, whispering about how proud she was of her daughter. The doctors were optimistic about the treatment now becoming possible. The factory where Emma worked became a center of support. Colleagues, who had barely spoken to her, now brought meals, offered help, shared resources. The workplace transformed from a place of monotonous labor to a community of care. Local schools got involved. Children made cards, created artwork, and collected small donations. The entire town seemed to pulse with a newfound sense of connection and purpose. As weeks passed, the total donations exceeded all expectations. Not only could they now cover Margaret's medical treatment, but they also had additional support for future medical needs. Emma's world, once so small and confined, had suddenly expanded. The most surprising transformation was in Emma herself. The woman who had always kept to herself, who had never asked for help, was learning to accept support. Her quiet strength now had a new dimension, the ability to be vulnerable, to accept love from others. Robert watched from a slight distance, understanding that this was more than just a fundraiser. It was a healing process for the entire community. Emma's story had become a reminder of the power of human connection, of what people could achieve when they truly cared for one another. As the medical treatment began and Margaret's health started to improve, Emma realized something profound. Her years of silent struggle had not been in vain. They had been a journey leading to this moment of unexpected grace, of community embrace. The town had not just saved Margaret. They had rescued Emma's hope, her belief in human kindness, her understanding of what community truly meant. The end. The scholarship letter arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Emma couldn't believe her eyes. Robert had secretly helped her apply for a nursing program, recognizing her passion and dedication to care. Margaret, now recovering, sat in her favorite armchair by the window. Her eyes sparkled with pride as Emma read the acceptance letter. Years of sacrifice had led to this moment, an opportunity Emma had long abandoned as impossible. The nursing program was more than just an educational path. It was a chance to transform her entire life. Emma would be able to help others the way her community had helped her. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman who had always cared for others would now be professionally trained to do so. Robert's support continued, but now it was different. He had become a true friend, someone who believed in her potential more than she believed in herself. He helped her prepare for classes, offered study support, and ensured she balanced her new studies with caring for her mother. The textile factory management surprised Emma by offering her a flexible work schedule. They had watched her journey, witnessed her transformation, and wanted to support her growth. Her years of dedication had earned their respect and admiration. Margaret's health continued to improve. The expensive treatment had worked better than anyone expected. She began helping Emma study, sharing medical knowledge from her years as a school teacher. Their relationship transformed from one of pure caretaking to a partnership of mutual support. Emma's first day of nursing classes was terrifying and exciting. She was older than most students, with years of life experience that set her apart. Her classmates were impressed by her determination, her quiet strength, her ability to remain calm under pressure. The community that had supported her medical fundraiser continued to check in. Local businesses offered small scholarships, additional support, words of encouragement. Emma realized she was no longer alone. She was part of something larger than herself. Her story began to inspire others. Local newspapers followed her journey, sharing how community support could transform lives. Young people in the town started to understand the power of collective kindness, of supporting each other through difficult times. Robert's role in her life remained consistent. A friend, a supporter, someone who saw her potential before she could see it herself. He never sought recognition, never wanted anything in return. His support was pure and unconditional. As months passed, Emma excelled in her nursing studies. Her life experiences gave her a unique perspective. She understood patient care wasn't just about medical treatment, but about human connection, about seeing each patient as a complete person with a story. Margaret watched her daughter's transformation with quiet joy. The woman who had sacrificed everything was now creating a life of purpose, of meaning. Their small council house felt different, filled with hope, with possibility, with dreams finally taking shape. The textile factory became a distant memory. Emma was becoming something she had always secretly wanted, a professional caregiver, someone who could make a real difference in people's lives. Her journey from factory worker to nursing student was a testament to resilience. Community meetings now sometimes featured Emma, sharing her story. She spoke about the power of support, of how a single act of kindness could change an entire life trajectory. Her words inspired other struggling individuals to believe in themselves. Robert remained a constant, humble friend. He had been the catalyst, the unexpected connection that had helped Emma rediscover her potential. Their friendship became a beautiful example of how genuine support could transform lives. As her first year of nursing studies concluded, Emma realized her life had become something she could never have imagined. The quiet, struggling woman who had spent years caring for her mother was now caring for an entire community, pursuing her dream, living a life of purpose. Her story was more than a personal journey. It was a powerful reminder that hope can emerge from the most unexpected places, that community support can heal, transform, and create miracles. The end.